If you enjoy stories about unfaithful husbands, this channel is for you. Leave a like and support us by subscribing to the channel. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say it's best served with legal documentation, forensic accounting, and a prenuptial agreement your cheating husband forgot he signed. My name is Olivia Thornton, and this is the story of how I dismantled my husband's life, piece by calculated piece, while he was too busy between another woman's sheets to notice the empire crumbling beneath his feet. I know what you're thinking. You're picturing some scorned, hysterical wife throwing clothes out a window, keying cars, making a scene. That's not me. I'm the woman who smiled at business dinners while my husband's mistress texted him under the table. I'm the woman who poured his morning coffee with steady hands while planning his complete financial annihilation. Marcus Thornton, Chief Operating Officer of Titanium Ventures, 6'1", 44 years old, salt and pepper hair, custom-tailored suits, and an ego that could fill the entire Austin skyline. To the world, he was the picture of success, the self-made executive who'd climbed from modest beginnings to the top of the venture capital world, charitable foundation board member, mentor to young entrepreneurs, devoted husband of 12 years. What a beautiful lie we'd built together. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You want to know how it started, don't you? How the perfect wife discovered her perfect husband wasn't so perfect after all. It wasn't lipstick on a collar. It wasn't a suspicious text message. It was something far more insulting: his carelessness. After years of marriage, Marcus had grown so comfortable in his deception that he stopped being careful. Hotel receipts in suit pockets, 2 glasses of wine on the company card when he'd supposedly dined alone, perfume that definitely wasn't mine clinging to his dress shirts. Most women would have confronted him right then, demanded answers, cried, begged for explanations. I'm not most women. Instead, I did what I do best. I observed, documented, and strategized. Because you see, Marcus made one critical mistake when he married me. He assumed that because I came from old money, because my family's fortune was built on technology patents and I'd never worked in the corporate trenches, that I was somehow less intelligent than him, less capable. Just another pretty face at 41, content to play the dutiful wife. He forgot that my family didn't build their fortune by being naive. The day I executed my plan, Marcus was supposed to be in Seattle for a week-long investor conference. 7 days of freedom, for both of us, though only one of us knew it would be permanent. I'd spent 3 months preparing for this moment. 3 months of meticulous planning while playing the role of oblivious wife to perfection. I laughed at his jokes over dinner. I organized his travel itineraries. I even kissed him goodbye at the door that Tuesday morning, watching his Tesla disappear down our winding driveway in Westlake Hills. The moment his car turned onto the main road, I made my first call. Mrs. Thornton. My attorney's voice was crisp and professional. Are you ready to proceed? Yes, Patricia. It's time. Within 2 hours, my house, our house, legally mine according to the prenuptial agreement he'd signed without his lawyer's review, transformed into something unrecognizable. The moving company I'd hired wasn't just efficient, they were surgical. Every piece of furniture I'd selected, every sculpture from my family's collection, every item that held any significant value, gone, loaded onto climate-controlled trucks and transferred to a secure storage facility under my maiden name, Chambers. I wasn't stealing. I was reclaiming what had always been mine. The staff had been given generous severance packages and sent home 3 days earlier. I'd told them we were doing major renovations, that they'd earned a paid vacation. Rosa, our housekeeper of 9 years, had embraced me with tears streaming down her face, thanking me for my generosity, if only she knew the real reason. By Wednesday afternoon, the house stood nearly empty. I walked through rooms that echoed with absence, my heels clicking against imported Italian marble. The master bedroom, stripped bare except for Marcus's belongings, and the bed he'd sleep in alone. The living room where we'd entertained Austin's elite, just the built-in shelving remaining. Even the gourmet kitchen looked skeletal, with only the high-end appliances that came with the property still in place. In the center of the grand foyer, on the console table where we'd always dropped our keys, I placed a single brown envelope, thick, legal-sized, sealed with red wax bearing my family's crest, the Chambers emblem that represented generations of wealth and power. Inside that envelope was the end of everything he'd built on lies. I stood there for a long moment, running my fingers along the envelope's sharp edge. 12 years of marriage, 12 years of believing in us. And now, in less than 72 hours, Marcus would cut his Seattle trip short, exactly as I'd predicted he would, to spend extra time with her. He'd walk through that door expecting his predictable, devoted wife. Instead, he'd find this envelope, and his entire world would shatter. Let me take you back 4 months, to the moment I first confirmed what my gut had been screaming for weeks. It was a Thursday evening in March. Marcus had texted me around 6, claiming he needed to work late on a deal closing. Standard excuse. I'd heard it 100 times before, and for years, I'd believed it. Titanium Ventures was demanding. Late nights were normal in venture capital, but that night, something felt different. Maybe it was the way he'd been extra affectionate that morning, kissing my forehead and telling me how much he appreciated me. Guilt has a distinct flavor when you've been married long enough to taste it. I did something I'd never done before. I followed him. The Regency waterfront isn't far from our Westlake Hills home, maybe 20 minutes down Mopac. It's the kind of boutique hotel that caters to wealthy business travelers who value discretion. Expensive, elegant, anonymous. I sat in my Range Rover in the parking garage, hands gripping the steering wheel, watching the elevator banks. Part of me hoped I was wrong. Part of me knew I wasn't. Then I saw them. Marcus emerged from the elevator at 7:15, his tie loosened, that satisfied smile on his face I recognized from our early years together, and beside him, laughing at something he'd said, touching his arm with easy familiarity. Her. She was young, 27, maybe 28. Honey blonde hair, fitted dress, the kind of beauty that turns heads without trying. Everything about her screamed ambitious, hungry, ascending. Later, I'd learn her name was Sienna Hayes, junior associate at Titanium Ventures. Of course, Marcus always did have a type. Young, impressive, eager to please. I watched them walk to his car, watched him open her door like a gentleman, watched them drive away together. I sat there in that parking garage for another hour, my 41-year-old reflection staring back at me in the rearview mirror. That's when the tears came. Not the dramatic, sobbing kind. Just silent streams down my face that I didn't bother wiping away. 12 years. 12 years of believing in us, of choosing him every single day, of building a life I thought was real. I sat there for 2 hours, crying in that parking garage, my 41-year-old hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to confront them right then. Part of me wanted to drive home, pack a bag, and disappear. Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never seen anything. But then, slowly, something shifted inside me. The tears stopped. My breathing steadied. And in the silence of that car, I heard my grandmother's voice. The woman who'd built a tech empire in the 1970s, when women weren't supposed to be in boardrooms. Never let them see you break, Olivia. Break them first. Break them completely. But never let them see you break. I pulled down the visor mirror and studied my reflection. Red eyes. Mascara streaks. A woman who'd just discovered her husband's betrayal. Then, I wiped my face clean, reapplied my lipstick, and felt something cold and sharp crystallize in my chest. Marcus had made a critical miscalculation. He'd married Olivia Chambers Thornton, daughter of Richard Chambers, granddaughter of Margaret Chambers. I came from a family that didn't just build empires. We protected them, and we destroyed anyone who threatened them. Marcus thought he was clever, sneaking around with his pretty young associate. He had no idea what he'd just unleashed. Over the next 3 months, I became someone I didn't recognize, and someone Marcus never suspected existed. Every morning, I played my role flawlessly. I made breakfast. I asked about his day. I attended charity galas on his arm, smiling for photographs that would later be used as evidence of our happy marriage in court. I was the perfect wife, and Marcus was too intoxicated by his double life to notice the trap closing around him. But while he thought I was planning dinner parties and yoga schedules, I was building his destruction. I hired a private investigator, not some seedy character from a noir film, but a former FBI agent named David Chen, who specialized in corporate fraud. Within 2 weeks, David had documented everything: hotel check-ins, dinner receipts, photographs of Marcus and Sienna entering her downtown apartment, even footage of them at a secluded restaurant in San Antonio, where apparently they'd spent a romantic weekend while Marcus told me he was at a conference in Houston. The evidence was damning, but evidence of an affair wasn't enough for what I had planned. I needed more. So I did something that would have made my grandfather proud. I started digging into Titanium Ventures' financial records. You see, Marcus had made another critical mistake beyond underestimating me. He'd given me signing authority on certain company accounts years ago for Convenience. He'd forgotten about it. Administrative paperwork buried in some file. I hadn't forgotten. What I discovered made the affair look like a minor indiscretion. Marcus had been using company funds, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to finance his lifestyle with Sienna. 5-star hotels charged to client entertainment, first-class flights to cities where Titanium Ventures had no business interests, a Cartier bracelet buried in consultant fees, even a weekend trip to Cabo that showed up as a team-building retreat that never happened. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was embezzling from his own company. But I'll be honest with you, there was a moment around week 7 of my investigation when I almost stopped. It was a Sunday morning. Marcus had made pancakes, something he rarely did anymore. We sat at our kitchen island, sunlight streaming through the windows, and he told me about a young entrepreneur he was mentoring. His eyes lit up when he talked about innovation, about building something meaningful. For a moment, just a moment, I saw the man I'd fallen in love with 13 years ago, the passionate, driven Marcus who'd talked about changing the world. And I thought, maybe I should just confront him. Maybe we could fix this. Maybe the affair was a mistake he'd end if I just gave him the chance. Then my phone buzzed. A text from David Chen, my investigator. Another hotel charge. Last night, Ritz-Carlton. Room service for 2, $340. Champagne and strawberries. I looked at Marcus across our kitchen island, watching him scroll through his phone with that little smile I'd once found endearing. He was probably texting her right then, reliving their romantic night while sitting 3 feet from his wife. The moment of weakness evaporated. I took a bite of pancakes and smiled. These are delicious, honey. You should make them more often. The investigation continued. My company, technically. Because here's what Marcus had also forgotten. When we married 12 years ago, my father had insisted on certain protections. The prenuptial agreement wasn't just about protecting my family's assets. It included stipulations about the venture capital firm Marcus and his partner Daniel had founded. My family had been the primary investor. Through a complex structure of holding companies and trusts, I held 51% of Titanium Ventures. Marcus was the COO of a company I secretly controlled, and he just handed me every piece of ammunition I needed to destroy him completely. The affair would end our marriage. The embezzlement would end his freedom. The Tuesday Marcus left for Seattle, I knew he wouldn't stay the full week. Call it intuition. Call it pattern recognition. Call it knowing your enemy. I'd watched him pack his suitcase with unusual care. Too many nice shirts for a boring investor conference. He'd gotten a haircut the day before. New cologne sat on his bathroom counter. All the telltale signs of a man preparing to impress someone who wasn't his wife. "I'll miss you," he'd said at the door, kissing my cheek with practiced tenderness. "I'll miss you too," I'd replied, meaning every word. I would miss the man I thought I'd married, the man who'd never actually existed. By Wednesday evening, after the movers had cleared out everything of value, I received the text I'd been expecting. Conference wrapped early, coming home Thursday afternoon instead of Monday. Love you. I stared at that message for a full minute, sitting alone in our echoing empty house. Love you? 2 words that had once meant everything, now reduced to the closing line of a lie. I texted back, "Wonderful. Can't wait to see you. Safe travels." Then I called Patricia, my attorney. "He's coming home Thursday," I said. 36 hours earlier than planned. Perfect. I could hear the smile in her voice. "Everything is in place, Olivia. The divorce petition has been filed. The board meeting is scheduled for Friday morning. The forensic accountant's report is ready. Are you absolutely certain you want to go through with this?" I looked around the master bedroom, his clothes still hanging in the closet, his watch collection still displayed on the dresser, his side of the bed perfectly made, everything exactly as he'd left it, everything except me. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. "Then I'll see you Friday. Remember, don't engage with him when he arrives. Let the documents speak for themselves." After I hung up, I walked through the house one final time. Our home of 8 years, the place where I'd believed we were building a life together, where I'd imagined growing old with him, where every room held memories that now felt contaminated by his betrayal. In the kitchen, I left his favorite coffee pods beside the espresso machine. In the bathroom, fresh towels monogrammed with his initials. In the garage, space for his Tesla. I was leaving him everything that didn't matter, the stage props of his life, but the substance, the wealth, the power, the company, the future he'd taken for granted, those were already gone. By Thursday at 2 p.m. I was packed and ready. 1 suitcase, 1 purse, One brown envelope on the foyer table. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. I didn't go far. I wanted to witness the moment Marcus's world collapsed, even if from a distance. I checked into a suite at the Four Seasons downtown Austin, positioned my laptop on the desk, and waited. David Chen, my private investigator, had installed discrete cameras throughout the house weeks ago, perfectly legal on property I owned. I could see the foyer, the living room, the kitchen. I could watch Marcus discover what I'd left behind. His Tesla pulled into the driveway at 4:30 p.m., exactly when his flight from Seattle would have landed, had he actually been in Seattle. I watched the screen as he entered through the front door, rolling his suitcase behind him, already pulling out his phone, probably to text Sienna that he'd made it home safely from his business trip. "Olivia?" His voice echoed through the empty foyer. "Liv, I'm home." Silence answered him. I watched him stop, his hand frozen on his phone, his eyes scanning the barren space, the console table where we'd always kept fresh flowers, empty except for that brown envelope. The walls where my grandmother's paintings had hung, bare. Even the chandelier I'd selected, gone, replaced with the builder's basic fixture. What the hell? He walked toward the living room, his footsteps quickening. I leaned closer to my laptop screen, my heart pounding despite my careful planning. This was it, the moment of realization. Through the camera, I watched him move from room to room. Kitchen, stripped of everything except appliances. Dining room, the custom Italian table I'd inherited from my mother, vanished. His office, untouched, his papers and computer exactly as he'd left them. My office, completely empty, as if I'd never existed there at all. "Olivia, this isn't funny." His voice carried an edge of panic now. "Where are you?" He ran upstairs. I switched camera views, following his progression. Master bedroom, my closet empty, my jewelry gone, my entire side of the bathroom cleared out. The guest rooms, furniture removed, except for pieces he'd brought into the marriage. Even the artwork in the hallways, all gone. He stood in our bedroom doorway, and for the first time in 12 years, I saw Marcus Thornton look truly afraid. That's when he noticed his phone buzzing. Multiple notifications, emails, texts, voice messages piling up. His business partner, Daniel. "Call me immediately." His assistant. "Mr. Thornton, there's an emergency board meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning." His bank. "Account alert. Access restricted." But he ignored them all. Instead, he ran back downstairs, his dress shoes thundering on the hardwood. He grabbed the brown envelope from the foyer table, his hands shaking as he tore it open. I smiled, raising my glass of wine to the screen. "Welcome home, Marcus." I couldn't see Marcus's face clearly through the camera, but I didn't need to. I'd memorized every document in that envelope. I knew exactly what he was reading, exactly what moment of horror he was experiencing. The first page, petition for dissolution of marriage, filed that morning in Travis County. Irreconcilable differences, with a comprehensive list of grounds including adultery. I watched him flip through the pages, faster and faster, as if speed reading could somehow change the words. Page 5. Photographs. Marcus and Sienna at the Regency waterfront. Marcus and Sienna in San Antonio. Marcus and Sienna entering her apartment building at midnight. All time-stamped. All professionally documented. All admissible in court. Page 12. The prenuptial agreement he'd signed 12 years ago. The one his lawyer had advised him to read carefully. The one he'd dismissed as just a formality because he was so confident in our love, so certain we'd never need it. Article 7, Section 3, highlighted in yellow. In the event of marital dissolution due to proven infidelity by the secondary party, all assets acquired during the marriage revert to the primary party, including but not limited to real property, investment portfolios, and equity stakes in jointly held business ventures. I watched him sink onto the bottom step of the staircase, the papers scattering around him, but he hadn't reached the best part yet. Page 18. Corporate ownership documentation. The truth about Titanium Ventures' real power structure, shell corporations and holding companies, all trace back to the Chambers Family Trust. My family's initial investment had been structured to give them, and by extension me, controlling interest. 51% of the company Marcus thought he'd built. I owned his dream. Page 23. The Forensic Accounting Report. Prepared by Morrison & Associates, one of the most respected financial investigation firms in Texas. 3 months of analysis, documenting every fraudulent expense, every misappropriated dollar, every business expense that was actually a gift for his mistress. Total misuse of company funds, $347,000. Criminal liability, embezzlement, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. And the final page, the one I'd personally written, a letter on Chambers' family letterhead. Dear Marcus, you forgot who you married. You forgot what my family built. You forgot that empires aren't conquered by men who mistake kindness for weakness. Consider this your education. Olivia Chambers Thornton. Through the camera, I watched him crumple that letter in his fist. Watched him pull out his phone with shaking hands. Watched him dial. My phone rang. Marcus Thornton, the screen said. I let it go to voicemail. Then I poured myself another glass of wine and prepared for the final act. Marcus called 17 times that night. I didn't answer once. But Friday morning, I was exactly where I needed to be. The boardroom of Titanium Ventures, sitting in the chair that had always been symbolically his. The emergency board meeting started at 9 a.m. sharp. Daniel Morrison, Marcus's business partner and supposed best friend, sat across from me. He'd aged in the past 24 hours. New lines around his eyes, his usually perfect hair disheveled. Next to him sat our corporate attorney, Janet Reeves, and 2 representatives from my family's trust. Marcus arrived at 9:03, bursting through the conference room doors like a man fleeing a fire. He froze when he saw me. Olivia, my name came out strangled. His tie was crooked, his shirt wrinkled. He'd clearly slept in his clothes, if he'd slept at all. Then his expression shifted from shock to anger. What the hell is this? You ambush me at my own company? Daniel, get her out of here. She's having some kind of breakdown. Sit down, Marcus. My voice cut through his bluster like a knife. I'm not sitting anywhere until you explain why you've lost your mind. The house? The threats in that envelope? You can't actually think— Mr. Thornton, Janet interrupted, her tone ice cold. You are currently in violation of multiple criminal statutes. I strongly advise you to sit down and listen. Criminal. This is a divorce, not a— He whirled on Daniel. Are you going to let her do this? We're partners, for God's sake. Tell her she can't just walk in here and— Marcus. Daniel's voice was quiet, almost pitying. Sit down, please. Something in Daniel's tone must have penetrated, because Marcus finally pulled out a chair, but he didn't sit. He gripped the back of it, knuckles white. Fine, I'm listening. But this is insane, Olivia. So I made a mistake. So I had an affair. That doesn't give you the right to— An affair financed with $347,000 of company money, I said calmly. That's not a mistake, Marcus. That's embezzlement. That's fraud. That's a felony. The color drained from his face. That's not— You can't prove? Those were legitimate business expenses. Hotel rooms in cities where Titanium Ventures has no clients? Cartier jewelry billed as consultant fees? A Cabo vacation disguised as a team retreat that never happened? I slid the forensic report across the table. 3 months of investigation. Every receipt. Every transaction. Every lie. Marcus grabbed the report, his hands shaking. As he read, I watched him age years in minutes. The fight drained out of him as each page revealed another piece of evidence. Sienna, he whispered finally. She kept calling, crying, saying she'd been fired, that her lawyer said she could be charged as an accomplice. He looked up at me with something close to hatred. You destroyed her too? She had nothing to do with— She had everything to do with it, I said. She accepted gifts purchased with stolen money. She participated in your fraud. And yes, I fired her this morning. Marcus stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like he couldn't find words. Finally, he managed— You can't be serious. You're my wife. You can't just— Your soon-to-be ex-wife, I said quietly. It was the first time I'd spoken directly to him since Tuesday morning's goodbye kiss. And I'm not here as your wife, Marcus. I'm here as majority shareholder of Titanium Ventures. The color drained from his face. That's not— You can't be— Shall we begin? I opened the folder in front of me. Item 1. Review of financial irregularities discovered during a routine audit of company accounts. Janet distributed copies of the forensic accounting report to everyone at the table. Marcus grabbed his copy, his hands trembling so violently the papers rattled. Item 2, I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Discussion of criminal liability and fiduciary breach by Chief Operating Officer Marcus Thornton. Olivia, please. Item 3. Vote to remove Marcus Thornton from all operational duties, effective immediately. and referral of financial crimes to the Travis County District Attorney's Office. Daniel finally looked up, his expression a mixture of pity and resignation. I'm sorry, Marcus, but she owns 51%. Her family has always been the majority investor. We thought you knew. Marcus stared at his supposed best friend, betrayal written across every feature. You knew? He whispered. You knew this whole time, and you never told me? Daniel's silence was answer enough. I raised my hand. All in favor of removing Marcus Thornton as COO? Every hand in the room went up, including Daniel's. Marcus sat frozen in his chair, staring at the raised hands like they were weapons pointed at his chest. Motion passes unanimously, Janet announced, making notes in her legal pad. Mr. Thornton, effective immediately. Your access to all company systems, accounts, and facilities has been revoked. Security will escort you from the building. You are prohibited from contacting any Titanium Ventures employees or clients. You can't do this. Marcus's voice was barely audible. I built this company. I brought in 80% of our investors. Those deals are mine. Those deals, I interrupted, were funded with my family's capital, negotiated in offices my family's money paid for, and closed using resources that I own. You were an employee, Marcus, a very well-compensated employee who forgot his place. He turned to me then, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Desperation. Liv, please. I made a mistake. I'll end it with Sienna. I'll do anything. But don't take my company. Don't destroy everything I've worked for. I'm not taking your company, I said calmly. I'm reclaiming mine. There's a difference. The forensic report has been forwarded to the district attorney's office. Janet continued. Mr. Thornton, you should be aware that misuse of corporate funds exceeding $300,000 constitutes a second-degree felony in Texas, punishable by 2 to 20 years in prison. Marcus's phone buzzed on the table. We all saw the name, Sienna Hayes. You should probably answer that, I said. I imagine she's calling about her termination letter. She was fired this morning. Turns out sleeping with a superior who embezzles company funds to impress you makes you an accomplice to fraud. His face went gray. You fired Sienna? I fired your mistress, yes, along with anyone else who knew about your affair and failed to report the financial irregularities. This company will have integrity again. Marcus grabbed his phone with shaking hands, but before he could answer, it buzzed with another notification. Then another. His banking app. His credit cards. You'll also find, I said, watching realization dawn across his features, that all accounts under your name have been frozen pending investigation. The house, my house, is no longer accessible to you. Your vehicle is registered in my name. Your country club membership was sponsored by me. Where am I supposed to go? The question came out like a child's whimper. I stood, gathering my documents. I don't know, Marcus. Maybe Sienna's apartment? Oh, wait. She's probably not speaking to you anymore. Funny how mistresses lose interest when the money disappears. 2 security guards appeared at the conference room door, but before they could enter, Marcus stood abruptly, his chair crashing backward. No. His voice was raw. No, you don't get to do this. Olivia, look at me. Look at me. I met his eyes calmly. 12 years, he said, his voice breaking. 12 years of marriage. I know I screwed up. I know the affair was wrong. But this? Destroying everything? Taking my company? My freedom? My entire life? This is cruel. This is... I stood then, slowly, and walked around the conference table until I was inches from him. The security guards tensed, but I held up one hand. You want to talk about cruel, Marcus? My voice was soft, deadly. Let me tell you about cruel. Cruel is lying to my face every single day. Cruel is using my family's money to impress your mistress. Cruel is thinking I was too stupid, too trusting, too devoted to ever fight back. I never thought you were stupid. Yes, you did. Every time you came home from her bed and kissed me goodnight. Every time you charged her gifts to our company. Every time you looked at me and saw nothing but a convenient decorative wife. I stepped closer. You gambled everything on the assumption that I loved you too much to destroy you. You were half right. I did love you that much. But that's exactly why I'm destroying you now. Because you took that love and you obliterated it. Tears streamed down his face. Liv, please. My name, I said quietly, is Olivia Chambers Thornton, and you're done using it. I nodded to the security guards. They stepped forward, each taking one of Marcus's arms. As they led him toward the door, he turned back one last time. I'm sorry, he choked out. I'm so sorry. I know you are, I said. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry you're losing. But you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry it had consequences. The door closed behind him. I stood alone in that boardroom, my hands shaking for the first time since this began, and let myself feel it all. The rage, the grief, the bitter satisfaction of watching him finally understand what he'd lost. Then I straightened my jacket, composed my face, and returned to my seat at the head of the table. Titanium Ventures had work to do. 6 months later, I stood in that same boardroom, looking out over downtown Austin. Titanium Ventures had just closed the most successful quarter in company history. Without Marcus's reckless spending and ego-driven decisions, we'd streamlined operations, attracted serious investors, and earned a reputation for ethical business practices. Daniel had stepped into the COO role and proven himself far more capable without Marcus's shadow. Sienna Hayes had left Texas entirely. Last I heard, she was working at a startup in San Francisco, her promising career permanently stained by the scandal. And Marcus? The trial had been swift. The evidence was overwhelming. Embezzlement, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. The prosecution had built an airtight case using the very documents I'd provided. His expensive lawyers had tried every angle, but you can't argue with bank records and timestamps. Marcus Thornton was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. With good behavior, he'd serve 5. I attended the sentencing hearing. I sat in the back row, watching as they led him away in handcuffs. He'd lost weight. His expensive suits were gone, replaced by an ill-fitting public defender's recommendation. The confidence, the swagger, the arrogance, all of it stripped away. As they led him past my row, he stopped. The marshals allowed him 1 moment. "Was it worth it?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Destroying me completely? We had 12 years together, Olivia. Doesn't that mean anything?" I looked at the man I'd once loved, the man who'd thrown away everything we'd built for a 27-year-old associate, and the thrill of deception. "You destroyed yourself, Marcus," I said quietly. "I just made sure you faced the consequences. And those 12 years, they meant everything to me. That's why this hurt enough to make me fight back." He nodded slowly, something like understanding finally crossing his features. "I underestimated you." "Yes," I agreed. "You did. Every single day of our marriage, you underestimated me. That was your real mistake, not the affair. You thought I was decoration. You forgot I was a Chambers." The marshals led him away. I never saw him again. Now, standing in my boardroom, looking at quarterly reports that proved Titanium Ventures was thriving, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Not happiness. That would take time. Not satisfaction. Revenge tastes more bitter than people imagine. But peace, finally, after months of strategic warfare. I'd learned something valuable through all of this. Loyalty isn't weakness, and betrayal has a price. Marcus had gambled his entire future on the assumption that I was too soft, too comfortable, too devoted to ever fight back. He'd learned, too late, that the most dangerous opponent is the one you underestimate. And I'd learned that sometimes the woman who loses her marriage can still win everything that matters. Thank you for watching until the end. Your support is very important. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.